Hey y'all, welcome back to Homestead in the City. I'm Zach, and today we're going on a tour of my garden. So starting at the top of the hill in our yard is our patio pond that's given us a little bit of ambiance, a little bit of cooling right here at the patio where we like to have friends and family over. That's a table where we had our community group over the other day. And that pond is filled by our well, which gives us good clean water. And then that well is also used in the other water features around. And then of course, right back here at the corner, we have our chicken run. Hey ladies, how y'all doing this morning? And so we've got our 3 hens back here. We've got our Rhode Island Red Patricia, and we've got Petunia and Phyllis, our 2 barred twins. And we get lots of eggs out of them. And not only do we get eggs, but we get a ton of compost. We throw all of our food scraps back here. We put charcoal back here from the fire pits on the patio. And then when they roost in the trees, that's where they sleep, and then poop down, all that charcoal absorbs that, and then it gets raked into our compost pile right here. One of 2 compost places, because we also back here have our chunnel, which is our evergreen tunnel that we've made for the chickens. And every week or so, I'll come here and just rake all of this downhill, and it's a little hard to tell. Hey. But the yard is coming downhill just slightly this way. So I'll just rake all this stuff downhill. Yeah, we know. You want to be on camera? Okay. Yeah, so I'll rake all of that downhill to this compost pile. Now that compost pile is right at the edge of the fence that separates the food forest from the chicken run area. And as stuff gets filtered through, I can take that compost and just use it anywhere else in the garden. Now speaking of the food forest, this is an area that has definitely woken up for the spring since our last tour. So I'm gonna kind of walk back uphill and then come back down and look at what we've got. Back there, still kind of cleaning up. That's where we've moved the coop that was in our chicken run. That's gonna be a little tool shed now. Sometimes we have some mushroom logs in here, but right now we've got some chestnut that's waking up. I believe this is my American hybrid chestnut, and I had a Chinese chestnut back in here that I don't think did as well. My pokeweed is coming in strong. That I chopped down last year and used to make some Korean natural fertilizer that is actually still fermenting in the drum. Got some of the spider lilies are starting to wake up for the spring. This is the red mulberry that's popping back, and last year it was right about that tall. You can see the stick, and so this is all new growth. We trimmed it down some to try to propagate. We've got, what do we have in here? We've got elderberry. We've got tons of elderberry all over. We've got some bronze fennel. Got our American persimmon that's just starting to wake up. Of course, we've got our cherry laurel that's just everywhere. That's our hedge that is part of the chicken run back there. It's used, we'll use it to make the wattle fencing. We've used it for firewood, lots of stuff. My loquat, which when we put that in the ground, it was down right about this tall. And so this has been in this spot about 2 years now. We still haven't gotten fruit, but it's way taller than me now. As is this plum right here, which you can see when we put it in the ground, I think 2 years ago now, it was about that tall. And so this is, I guess, 1 full year of growth, and then this is gonna be year 2 of full growth. So this is a hazelnut, and so this one has been in the ground, I guess, a year or 2 now, and then I just put a new hazelnut in over here from Thriving the Future on Twitter. Grow Nut Trees is his website. We've got some of our tiger lilies from April when we moved in 3 years ago now. That's starting to propagate out in here. And then we've got the strawberry bush, which that produces those little red fruits that look like strawberries but are not. But this is a great native bush for the pollinators and such. Then in the middle of the yard, we've got our fruit orchard, and at the top, Percy helps us a lot, don't you, Percy? By helping us with our mulch to compost operation. And so we bring just wagons and wagons full of wood chips up to this area, and you can see he loves to dig down, and so that mixes up everything. And as it gets mixed up with our really sandy soil and that organic matter from the wood chips breaks down, it starts turning into some really good compost. And then another thing that happens as he digs, it gets thrown downhill, and then that becomes, you be nice to him, Purse, that becomes mulch for the rows of our orchard. And then we also will just take a rake and rake things downhill, so that as time progresses, the most broken down wood chips and stuff end up down here at this end at the bottom of the hill. And so then what I have done here is I'll take this, dig it up and put it through a Percival. Y'all behave. He's gonna bop you. You okay, Pluto? Pluto's our garden kitty. He's small, but he can handle himself. Percival, are you a bully sometimes? You don't know about that? Can you be nice to Pluto? Anyways, what I was saying is I will dig up this stuff and then take a sifter and sift it down, and that is actually what I have used in like these earth boxes to grow some stuff like my carrots and lettuces. We've got this onion that's starting to go to flower, and so that way over time I'm not gonna have to be bringing in soil for like potted plants and stuff. So that's kind of like the mulch operation of the orchard. And then the actual rows, I'll go through those now. We have 7 rows. They're starting to become easier to define. The first row is probably the worst. Right here I've got just an old fire pit where I'm growing some garlic in it. And I'm trying to get stuff going here. I've got some bananas going in this one, but right now not a ton in that row. Row 2 have a little bit more. This is a fig tree that last year around this time I think was at about that level, and so you can see the new growth that put off last year. So hopefully this year that's going to take off and we'll see it get about that high. We've also got our Cara orange tree that it didn't do the best during one of our freezes, but I think it hung on again. We've got one of our peaches. This is, I think, the Reliance. Nope, this is the Red Haven. We have seven peaches between the front backyard. But that's one of them. And then over here, got one of my apple trees. I got a grafting kit, and I am attempting to graft. We'll see how this one goes. This guy might have been a little too small, but on row 3, we've got a big old elderberry at the end. You can see, so this is growth from last year, and then this is, so that's the old growth. This is new growth that's coming off this year. So all of this started off as this last year. So I may even just trim this guy out and then let all of this grow up and be the new bush here. And then here, I lost the label, but this guy is one of my pear trees. Got another one of my peaches here. This is the Reliance. And then another citrus. What is this one? This is the Owari Satsuma. And then on row 4, got more elderberry in here. Got some elephant garlic down in here. So I'm gonna try to figure out over time what's going to be best for my ground layer. I do like strawberry. We'll see some of that over there. Garlics and root crops, they do well. What do you think, Pluto? And we've got more elderberry here, and then we've got our biggest peach tree here on row 4. And I put this in February 2023. It's March 2025 right now, so 26 months it's been in the ground. So we did get a handful of peaches off of this one last year. We had a ton of blooms on it this year, and some of them are already starting to form into tiny little peaches there. Okay, row 5, another one where we don't have a ton going on. This, we had a couple different ones that died just from too much mulch being around their bases from Percy digging. And so what I ended up doing is putting these banana trees here, because bananas can take a ton of hilling and mounding up around their stalks and still do great. And so they're just popping back in the spring now, but this guy got pretty big last year. So what I'm imagining on these 2 rows that are right up against the digging area, having bananas and other stuff that will kind of act as a protective wall to prevent too much mulch from being thrown on the other trees that are down here. Row 6, we have more elderberry. I've got another, got an apple tree here, Arkansas Black. We'll see how that does in this climate. In the center, we've got a plum tree, Methley plum, and actually just starting to see some fruit on it already. So that might be, I think this was the first fruit tree to flower. So hopefully we'll get fruit off of it before too long. I've got a mustard over here that is going to flower, so we'll save some seed from that. More elderberry. Over here, I've got another one of my mulberries. It is not leafing out quite as quickly as that one over there that we just saw. Then right here, what is leafing out is my grapevine. So last year what I did was trellis it along this power line that goes out to the greenhouse. Don't know that I'll do that this year, but we did get one bunch of grapes off of this last year, so hopefully we'll get some more this year. And then on row 7, one of the things throughout the winter we noticed, like this plant did really well, this and our strawberry. So what I want to do is get more of this in the other rows, because we know it's adapted well to our climate. It does well throughout the winter, so we can keep kind of stuff planted here year round, and that'll be a good cover crop. So that is going into the considerations, along with the stuff like the garlic, and of course the spiderwort. But yeah, so other trees in this row, this is another one of my apple trees. So this apple and this pear, I am pruning in kind of a 2D espalier fashion. So that way we should, by the end, have a couple different tiers of horizontal branches that put off these vertical shoots, and we'll get the fruit from these vertical shoots, and then we'll trim those off. So these horizontal ones, they will thicken up and get stronger, and then just put off new fruiting branches every year. So at the top of this one, you can see where we have some new growth coming off. We will do the same thing to these branches that we did to these. Maybe use some wire or something, but trying that out to see how it does right up against the greenhouse there, which we'll see in just a second. First, one of my favorite parts of our gardens is our fountain frog pond. And so this is the one that was completely filled in when we moved in. We had to dig it out, reseal it, and then just put a little well pump in there, or not a well pump, like an aquarium pump. And then we put fish down in there. And then the fish and the frogs that come in, the birds that come in to feed here, they create a good ecosystem. With the plants around it, the plants filter the water. Of course, the fish and frogs give nutrients to it, and so it fertilizes. One of the things that I love to do is put potted plants around the edge so that just kind of as a little bit splatters out, it's gonna lightly water them. And so what I'll also do is get buckets of water from this and put it in my compost tea bin here in the greenhouse. And so that means that first off, I've had well water and rainwater that go into the fountain. Then that gets fertilized by the fish and frogs and stuff. And then that is what starts in here as my compost tea. And then I also add some compost from the chicken run that's right behind that fence. And then I can just take that and pour it directly on my plants. Speaking of my greenhouse, we've got several things in here. Of course, the compost tea that I showed you. We've got a couple, well, it's one green stalk that is broken down, and I've got some peppers here that I've overwintered. They will be going out in the raised beds in the front probably in a few weeks. This guy is just a nightshade weed that popped up, but I let it go. We've got like tons of greens in here. This is bok choy. We've got shoot, what are these? These are Swift's chard. We've got green onions. We've got different lettuces and stuff in the different beds here. Pluto just ran in, claimed his spot. He loves to nap in here. I have that chair because I love to listen to a podcast or scriptures or read a book in here and enjoy a coffee, as you can see. And then we've got some seeds started in here as well. These are tomatoes that I'm doing 3 different varieties for a trial with Seed Savers, and then some basil that we got going. Some cilantro back there. These are some peas and other stuff. It's kind of in transition right now because we're heading into summer, so things are really heating up. These earth boxes here were inside. I'd brought them out. We saw them a second ago, but yeah, there's more of that lettuce and bok choy, some cilantro. So love having the greenhouse there. And then coming downhill from the greenhouse, we have the very first pond, well, outside of the fountain, but the first pond that we did here from Percy's digging. This was just a digging spot that he liked, and then we put down plastic, put in a little pump and water and fish, and so this is another little habitat for fish and birds and wildlife. One of the reasons too, I didn't mention before, that we do water features around for the birds is a lot of times crop loss in like berries and tomatoes and stuff like that is birds going for the water and the fruit, not necessarily the food. So if they have an alternative water source nearby, then that's going to lessen their need for going after your crops for water. Another thing about this pond is at the bottom of the hill of the yard. So we used to get a lot of flooding when it rained. Everything came down here. But we built the orchard in kind of a terraced way so that it would slow down water. All these wood chips that we bring in, they just soak up a ton of water too. I mean, you can dump a bucket and it'll sink straight in. And then since we have our chicken run on the other side of the food forest, which is on the other side of this orchard, but it's at the top of the hill, that means that when it rains, gradually gravity is just gonna wash that some of the nutrients from the top of the hill, from that chicken compost, through the food forest, through the orchard, and down to here. So theoretically, the bottom of the hill should be one of the more nutrient dense and heavy watered areas, more moist areas. And so the pawpaws that we have right here, that would make sense why they are doing well. This, I believe, is just from a pawpaw that I buried in the ground 2 years ago whole. That would have been fall of 2023. And if you're not familiar with pawpaw, stick around this channel. We love them here. They're just starting to flower out in the wild. And then late August, they should be ripe. So we will be following them, the progress of their ripening on the channel. And then come fall, late summer, we might actually be eating some and show you how you can grow some or find some in your home. What you doing, Pluto? This is the wagon that I used to haul all of the mulch up here from the mulch pile in the front. Percy, you better be nice to him. Then going down the side path, we're starting to define this more. We've got trees going in. Our key lime, once again, did not make it through the winter. If something sprouts up again, I might just dig it up and put it elsewhere. But the citrus that did do well is this Meyer lemon, which it was up against the house, which probably acted like a thermal battery. But one of the things I'm gonna do with this tree is try to get it to grow up in a espalier method up the side of this house. And then over here, we've also got our olive tree. We've got some non-food trees to kind of act as a privacy hedge here. So starting to emerge a more kind of Mediterranean theme. Over here, we've got that muscadine. I trimmed it back to really just this stalk a couple weeks ago at the end of the winter, and it is starting to put off new growth. We got a few fruit off of it last year, so hopefully this year we'll get a ton of new growth and lots of fruit. All right, and then right up front, we have, at this time of year, a beautiful native trio. This is the elderberry that is just popping back up. This guy has had some really good fruit. Actually, it's two different bushes right here that I trim back every year. And so they put off tons of new growth. They can cross-pollinate each other. They get some shade so they're not baked. And we've gotten our best fruit from these elderberries right here. And then under them, we've got this carpet of white flowers. That is our southern dewberry. And so that's kind of a native wild blackberry. They have thorny vines and they can just spread out. Uh-oh, Percy, you're not supposed to be up here. Come on. Come on, bub. Good. No, come on. Good boy. Good boy. Anyways, the southern dewberry, it's like a wild blackberry. We'll have some fruit in a few weeks. I did a video a few years ago about propagating them. They have these thorny vines. It is easy to propagate, but a few years down the road, I would say, like, you don't even really need to. They kind of pop up everywhere, at least around here. And then our third native that is popping in right now here is, of course, our azalea. We don't get food from it, but of course the pollinators love it, and it looks really pretty. And I don't know a ton about sports, but I do know azaleas in bloom mean that the masters are soon. And the other flowers that we have up here in front of the house, we have a lot of different bulbs. This is less of a food area because this is spilling into our memorial garden here. We've got some ground cover, some bulbs and stuff, but the centerpiece of that is our fig tree here, and that is, I trimmed it way down. We put it in the ground. You can see it was about this big, well, maybe about this big. and then it put off a lot of growth last year, and then I trimmed those off over the winter, and we're going to train this to be more of a tree and grow out. But yeah, you can already see we've got a little bit of fruit popping in. Then the next layer we have is our raised beds. In the middle one, you can see we have some T-posts and some fencing from the chicken run that I used to just make a trellis. And so I'm growing on that some peas right now. And then under here, I've got some cilantro, gonna see how it does in the shade of that stuff. Got some sunflowers that I just threw in. We'll see how they do. And then what's probably doing the best right now is my garlic. That's getting pretty big. We'll harvest that probably in June, late June maybe. And then another thing we've got going on is our potatoes and tomatoes. So we've got those in 2 beds. This is going to be really the first summer that I'm going to be trying to grow a lot of annuals. The past couple years, I've been putting a ton of time into just the hardscaping of everything, putting in the trees and stuff. I've given myself a break on trying to do the annuals, because that's just a different level of attention and kind of work. So really excited about getting going on those. Speaking of annual, this is the area where I'm starting my newest annual beds. You can see the base is mostly these wood chips that we get trucked in. That will break down into soil eventually. I've also put compost on top of that, and then planted garlic in that, and then mulched that with some hay. Of course, we are getting a ton of grass from the seed in that's popping up. I'm not too worried about that. This year it's mostly about kind of getting these areas established and getting the soil going, and then over time we'll be growing more stuff in here. And then I'll show you the other side of these beds, since we're on a hill over here too. The downhill side, I made this wattle fencing, and it's not wattle fencing. It's similar to wattle fencing. This is called a dead hedge, because instead of weaving the sticks through, I have a row on either side of these sticks that were the vertical posts, and then just a layer of these dead sticks laid down. So that acts kind of as a retaining wall for these beds, and then it's also going to act as a trellis for more of these vines, like these dewberries over here, these peas, and some stuff like this Virginia creeper. That can grow along here. That'll be a good wildlife habitat. And then that's also going to just help absorb water and reduce flooding, just like the other bed we're about to see. So these are some of our annual beds right up along the driveway. These are the ones that we dug down primarily to be as a floodwater management device. So we dug down some there, we throw seeds in. One of the things I'll do on a day before we get a rainstorm, I'll just throw some sunflower seeds out right now, or whatever is seasonally appropriate. So we've got sunflowers popping up now, but this will catch water and drain it into the yard first, before it goes into the street and downhill and floods the neighborhood. And then, so we did that by digging these beds down and kind of making berms along the way. And so on each of the berms we have a peach tree planted. So you can see these were just fully in bloom the other week. I almost shot a tour then, but then didn't. But yeah, so we have 4 different peaches up here. I don't remember all the varieties, but these rows catching water and throwing it in, and then it also gets soaked up by our hugelkultur hill that's in the center of the yard. So this is the hill. It started off with our second chip drop mulch delivery. We had some huge trees delivered in with it. and they were a little too big to move around, so we just leaned into it, kept bringing in more and more wood chips, which, speaking of, figured to show you our mulch delivery driveway. This is, I think, currently mulch load number 16. So all the paths and beds and hugelkultur hill, everything that all the wood chips, all the wood chips you've seen around here are from this driveway area. So anyways, we piled it up on top of here. That is breaking down, and eventually we will kind of grade this down, probably use it for more raised beds areas. But right now, that is slowly turning into a hill where we can grow other flowers and stuff. We've got garlic on top. We've got some pine trees. I've got a pear tree here. We've got elderberry going. We've got garlic popping up. Anyways, ton of stuff going here. This is a volunteer black walnut. The idea is we'll get lots of flowers and stuff growing on here now. So that will act as a wildlife habitat, be great for pollinators. That should help all of the other garden areas, and turn what was a headache of a pile of trees in the middle of the yard into an advantage of having a wildflower hill, a hugelkultur mound. And the berry hedge, still not a ton. We do have some of those dewberries coming in, but not too many other berries happening quite yet. And then right up here along the side of the street, we have our newest beds. Not a lot in them yet. Got some strawberries, but we'll probably put stuff like rosemary, basil, other things that are nice to just cut and use as a quick topping on a dish. And the purpose of these beds are really going to be for neighbors that pass by. So we'll put some sort of signage up here eventually, but we want to help use these gardens as a way to welcome in community and be a blessing to the neighborhood. And right here I've got my little live oak tree. It is not too tall right now. It's been in the ground just over a year, but hoping that in many years from now I may be gone, but hopefully it'll still be here shading our street for generations to come. So hopefully you enjoyed the tour today. Maybe you learned a little bit something. If you have a question or an angry remark, put it in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Pluto, you like stretching on the driveway?